Hello everyone and welcome to this tutorial on Microsoft Access. So today we'll explore what Access is, how it works and how you can use it to manage data. So whether you are completely new to databases or just need a refresher, this video will walk you through the essentials. My name is Evans Devanshawadia and we will be following this same material prepared for IT Society. So let's get started. So first of all, this is what we'll look at in this tutorial. Okay, so this is an overview of what we will cover in this first slide. So let's understand what Microsoft Access is. So think of Access as a database management system or a DBMS from Microsoft. So it combines a relational database engine with an easy to use interface, allowing you to store, organize, and manage data efficiently. Think of a database as a digital filing cabinet which helps you to collect, organize information about anything. It can be people, products, orders, and many more. Right. So now, before we dive deep into Access, let's clarify some key terminologies which we found in Access. So SQL, which stands for Structured Query Language, which is used to interact with the database. Then we also have the DBMS. I talked about it earlier. So a DBMS, it is just a software which is used to store, manage, and retrieve data. Okay, so users can create, can read, can update, and delete data in the database with the help of SQL. Right. So now a database, it is just a systematic collection of related data. Usually it is controlled by the DBMS. So the database will be controlled by the DBMS. Right. Now there are two main types of DBMS. We have relational database and non-relational. Okay. So the types of database management system are many, but let's just look at these two, relational and non-relational. So examples for relational, we have MySQL, Oracle, Microsoft Access, and so on and so forth. Okay, so relational uses SQL, and non-relational does not use SQL. Examples of non-relational, we have MongoDB and Redis. Okay, so examples of relational, as you can see, I've even highlighted the Microsoft Access in green, which means that this is what you'll be focusing on. Okay, so in this series of tutorials we'll just focus on Microsoft Access. Right, so now let's look at SQL versus DBMS. So this is just a summary of what we have done. Okay, so this is a summary. So we earlier said that it is just a language. SQL, it is a language which is used to interact with the database, right? Then DBMS, it is just a software to manage databases, right? Then examples. So these are some of the examples or queries which you can use in with the help of SQL. Okay. Then examples of database management system. We talked about this. So we'll look at also the usage. Okay. So with SQL, you can actually write commands to query and also modify data. But for DBMS, you can store, organize, and secure data, right? So the dependency is that SQL will need a DBMS, okay? In this case, to be specific, SQL will need a relational DBMS to execute commands. In other terms, we can say in terms of dependency, when it comes to DBMS, it can work without knowing SQL in some cases. Yes, it can work. How? Let's go back. Here we talked about non-relational. So non-relational, there's no need of what? SQL. So this is what I mean by it can work without knowing SQL in some cases. Right. So now let's create our first database and table. So let's just go on our desktop, we right click, go on new, then here where it says Microsoft Access Database. Then we can even name it tutorial 1. Okay, so tutorial 1, right? Okay, so you can name it whatever you want. So now the second thing we'll do after naming it as tutorial 1, we can just double click on it. Okay, so once we double click on it, we can even enable content. Okay, so this is an environment for Microsoft Access. Okay, so this is the environment which we'll be working on. Okay, the other way you can open this database, you can just go on, you can click on the Windows key and Windows plus R, and then you just type in MS Access right here. Then you click enter. Here you'll be provided with a visual way of doing it. You just click on blank, then you can name, you can give it a name, you can give your database any name you want. Then after that, you can now go and create. Okay, so these are some of the ways you can actually use, to create your first database. Okay, so now let me open the database. Enough of theory. Now let's concentrate on the practical aspect. Okay, let's appreciate or to see what Microsoft Access can do for us. So now we just go on create, then here you click on table, right? So create and then table. So this is our table. Okay, so by default it is named table 1. So if we want, we can modify the name, we can rename it. So upon saving your database, it will even prompt you if you want to rename it. Okay, so you can see that we have this field which is created automatically. So this field is automatically created and it acts as a primary key. So think of a primary key as a column, as a column of a record. Okay, so which uniquely identifies each record. So this column will uniquely identify each record. Okay, so it makes sure that there are no duplicates. Okay, there are no duplicates, and it also makes sure that each record is unique. Okay, so that is the importance of a primary key. And as we go on further, you will see on how these same primary keys can be of help, right? So for now, just think of a table must have a primary key which uniquely identifies each and every record, right? So now, what we can do here, let me start with Datasheet View. Okay, so let me start with Datasheet View on how you can, come up with some records. You can create some records, some fields, and so on and so forth. All right. So Datasheet View, it is, as you can see here, Datasheet View. Okay, so it is just providing a visual way of creating tables. Okay. So now to add a field, you just click here. Okay. Here where it's saying add, we just click, and we can now choose a data type. Then now type the field name. So once we choose the data type, we will now need to, type in the field name. Okay, so remember, if your field name has more than one word, you need to use, you know, you do not need to use spaces. Don't use spaces. You can use underscore, right? It's better you use underscore. So now let me give you an example of that. So let's say you wanna use okay, let's say our data type for this is just maybe short text, right? Short text. So now we can type in, since we have selected our data type, you can now type in the name. So first name. Okay. So first name. Okay. So I've used the underscore, right? So here you can do the same. You click, select the data type. So since I'm just going with characters, right? So that's the reason why I'm selecting short text, because I'm just going with characters. So here we can type in last name, right? Then we can click again here. So let's say, okay, we want to type, in this case, let's say gender, okay? Maybe for gender, we can use lookup relationship, right? So we can use lookup relationship. So you click here, then lookup relationship, because we wanna, type in our values ourselves. So go here, and then next, then this column will, you can write in the options you want. So here I can just say male, then here I can just say female. Okay, so here we want our users to be choosing the next, then allow multiple values if you want, or limit. So me, I want to limit to the list. Okay, just do it's now for me. So I can now click on finish, then it's done. Okay, so here it's this prompt is asking me want to rename the table or what. I can just say okay, I just want the default table one, it's fine. Okay, right, so we're done with okay, so let's rename it. So we selected we need to give it a name, right? Okay, so we need to give this a name. So rename field. Okay, so rename field. So this is gender. Remember we selected the data type to be lookup, right? So when you click here, it has to bring male or female, right? Male or female. Okay, so this is one simple way you can use. Okay, so this is your ID. So this ID, it's basically a primary key. ID is a primary key which will be uniquely identifying each record. So this record will be unique from the other record. Okay, so if I want, I can rename my ID to be maybe student number, maybe student ID, right? So now here we can put in our, let's try to put in our student ID. So what we can do right here, I can just say, okay. Okay, so, okay, since we are done, let me just try to see if I can input some text. Okay, so as you can see, it is auto-generating. Okay, it is auto-generating itself, right? So here I can just type in the name, okay, Evans, and I can just say Divanshi. Gender, I can just select male, right? So this field will be automatically be generating a unique ID. So here immediately I start typing. Let me type in James. Have you seen? So automatically it's generating numbers. So it is making sure that each and every record is unique. Okay, it is making sure that each and every record is unique in this database, right? So now this is a visual way you can create your database or and the table, right? Using Datasheet View, right? Using Datasheet View. So now we can what we can do if we're we're satisfied with what we are doing, right? We can go to Design View. Okay, so in Design View, this is what we are actually doing. So Design View are using the data type. So the data type for student ID was auto generate. Okay, so I want it to be generating automatically. That's the reason why when I go on Datasheet View, you can see that I can't type anything here. Here I can't type anything. Why? Because the data type is auto generating. So for me, to be typing something, I just need to maybe select any data type apart from auto generate, maybe number, right? So number here, maybe default to be 0, maybe I don't want 0, I can just remove it. Okay, so validation required here, you can even just say yes, validation is required, so to avoid the duplicates. So if you are satisfied now, you can go back to you can now go back to Datasheet View. Okay, save, yes. All right, so now I can type in now. Okay, you can see I'm able to type in whatever I want, 1919. Okay, because I've changed the data type. Okay, so even here I can just say 2022 1919. Okay, now if okay, so this will be 1919 20. Okay, so this is how we go about it when we want to design a table in datasheet view, right? In datasheet view. So now you can do the same in design view. Just go on design view. It's one and the same thing. Okay. So now this is just a glimpse of what I wanted to show you, on how you can come up with a table in a visual way. Okay, so this is the simplest way you can create a table. Okay, you can create your database. This is a simple way of doing it. So now let's now concentrate on how we can come up with a table using what we call SQL. Okay, because as I said earlier, our main focus is to know how you can use SQL and to get comfortable using SQL. Since we know that Microsoft Access supports SQL, okay. So now we want to start from scratch. So what I can do, I can just close this table. Then once upon closing it, I can delete it. Yes. So now let's see how we can now create our table using SQL commands. Right. Okay. So now the first thing we'll do is that we'll go or where it says create table, right? Create table. The next, what we do is that we'll go on query design, right? Query design, great. Okay, so we right click, then go on SQL view. Okay, so guys, this is our environment, and we'll be residing in this environment for the entire series of tutorials. We'll be using SQL from now onwards. No more using a visual way of creating a database. You'll be creating databases using SQL. Okay, so now let's say that we want to create a table. How do we do it? Okay, so we just say create. Okay, so using capital letters, so create table, right? Then the name of the table, so let's say students. Okay, then semicolon. So once you are done, you can now click here where it's saying run. Then the table will be automatically created, right? Or if you want to put some field names and their corresponding data types, what you can do, you can just say open and close, right? Then semicolon, don't forget, always at the end. Then inside, you can just type in whatever you want. So, for example, what can you start with? So, let's say we wanna start with scene. Okay. So we start with scene, right? Then so scene, it can be an int, so we give it a data type. Okay. So in this case, we can just say int, right? So again, we can also say first name, right? So first name, it can be vata. So variable characters. So how many characters? Maybe you can say 20, depending on how many characters someone can have in terms of names. Some people have very long names, for example Jose or Kukuru Kukuru. So we also have last name. Okay, so our last name can be in vata as well, variable character. So vata. Okay, so maybe I can even give it 20 characters. Okay, limit to 20 characters. Okay, so guys, this is how we can go about creating a database. Okay, and once once I'm done, once I'm satisfied with what I'm doing, I can just click on it, run. Okay, so here it's saying syntax error in the field definition. Okay, so what does this mean? So this means that there's an error somewhere. So as you can see, we started with scene, right? So scene, and we give it an int data type, right? We give it an int data type. Then we come to first name, last name. Okay. So vata, so you can see here spellings. So instead of A, I had to put E. So the spelling was wrong. So you can see now vata. Here you can see vata. Okay, variable character. Okay, let's try to run again. So I just made a mistake. Instead of A, I typed in E on vata. So we run. Okay, again saying syntax error. So let's say we're going wrong. So scene, first name, last name, we close. Okay, so now let's try to remove this comma at the end. Okay, so this is the reason why I'm getting a syntax error, because I'm done with the commands. So once you are done, there's no need of putting a comma at the end here, guys. This comma is not needed. So I remove a comma here, then I run. Okay, it's now created. So I was putting a comma here, which was not necessary, right? So once you're satisfied, you can now even click here, then voila. Okay, so this is how we can create a table using SQL commands. So this is how simple it gets. So now the other way you can do it, let's close. So we need to make sure that our table is closed, right? And you want to save, so we need to make sure that our table is closed. And then now we can type in some more SQL queries, right? So now here what you can do, I need to show you the other way of doing it. Okay, step by step. So what you can do when creating a table, you can just say create table, then the name of the table, students, right? Or in this case, let's say create table results. Then end with a semicolon. Then you can. So we need the query which will enable us to run this command. So what we do is that we go on design view again, cancel here, just close. Okay, so this is back. Okay, so I can now run. Okay, so you can see this table has been created. And once I try to open this table, I can't open this table. Why? Because we must have at least one destination field. This table has been created, but this table doesn't have any fields. Okay, it must at least one field in order for it to open. So this is how we can basically create tables. Okay, So now let me delete this. So I want us to be on the same page, right? I want us to be on the same page. I want us to be on the same page. So I've deleted both tables. Okay. So follow me now. So I'm saying create table students, comma, we run. Great. So our table has been created. And if I try to double click on this, it won't open. Why? Because we don't have any field. Okay. So create table students. We have created our first database table. Okay. We have created our first database. So now we need to put some fields in our database. Okay. So we need to add some fields in our database. So now what can we do? So what we can do is a special command which we call outer. This command here. So this command will enable us to add fields in this table. Okay, this command will help us to add fields in this table. Okay, so outer the name of table, right? So in this case, we will say outer table. Then the name of the table is what? Students. So this is the name of the table, outer table students. Then we now add, right? Then add, maybe let's say want to add scene. Okay. So this is our name, the name of the field. This is the name of the field, scene. Okay. So we want to add scene, give it a data type int. Okay. So our data type int, right? Once we are done with that, we can end with a semicolon, then you can run. Okay, so I've clicked on it, nothing has happened. So this means that I've created a field called scene, and we can confirm that when you open the table, you can see this is what you have created. Okay, so now let's give ourselves a task. Okay, let's give ourselves a task, guys. So let me go back to the PowerPoint and I give you a task, since we now know how to create our fields. Right, so now let us create this table. Let us create this database, right? So this database should have how many fields? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 fields and the records inside those fields. Okay. So now let's create the table. So we have already created the scene. Okay, so close the table, always close the table. So as you can see, a run command, we don't have a run command here. So if we want our run command to come back, we just go on create, then we go on SQL design query, then we cancel here, we also close this, it is back, right? So what we can do now, we can just start editing outer table students, then here add, what are we adding? We've already added a scene, so add first name, right? So for me, I just want to keep it in capital letters. So first name, you close. So in MS Access, you can't type in several commands at a go. Okay, so I've forgotten about the data type. So data type for name, since it's characters, it uses characters. So I can say that maybe 20 characters. Okay, then I run. Great. So done for that. The other one, let's add last name. Okay, so we run again. Great. Apart from last name, what do you want to add? Okay, so you also want to add gender, right? So gender. Okay, so gender, maybe you can just say 6 characters. You can limit to 6 because we only have male and female, and then female has 6 characters, so we can limit it to 6. Then we run. Then also have program, right? Program. So add program, so it can be VAT as well. So program here, maybe you can say 25. Then you run. Okay. So once we are done, we're satisfied, we're done with this, we're done with all these fields, we can now run. Okay. So this is what you have created. Okay. So this is how SQL. This is how SQL is. This is how simple it gets. So this is how you can create your first name field, last name, and so on and so forth. So now the next thing is that let us now add records. Okay, instead of us manually adding records, instead of you manually adding records in this database. For example, let's say we just say Peter, in EAP. Okay, gender maybe male, and program maybe you can say data science. So we don't want to be doing this. This is boring. We want to do something cool. Okay, so now let's say we want to add fields using SQL. Okay, we want to add fields using SQL. What can we do? So first, let me delete this record. So how do I delete this record? So to delete this record, I just go on here, then right click, then delete. Yes. Okay. So now let me go back to, let me close the table, Okay. Yes, I want to save the changes. So this is our table, close. Then here now what you can do, since we know now that we can use outer to add fields. We can use outer to add fields. Right. Now let's say we wanna add some records in our table. We have the fields, but we don't have the records. So there's a special command which we use. So this command is known as insert into. Okay. A command known as insert. Okay. So this is a command which we'll be using, insert. Okay. So we can just say insert, right, into. So insert into. So insert into what? Into students. Okay, insert into students. So now what do we want to insert? So we want to insert values, right? We want to insert values. So open and close brackets. I want to insert values. So the first value we can say, maybe let's say it's a student number. So a student number which can be 2022 18 45, then a comma. Then we can say, so what we need to know is that this record will go in the first field, which is seen. Okay, this record will go here. So this record will go here. Okay, so the second record will come here, the third record here, the fourth and the fifth record. This is how MS Access work. Okay, this is how MS Access works. Okay, so we have inserted our student number. Then the next thing we can insert, maybe it can be the name now. Okay, followed by the name. So name, we can just say James, right? So this is our first name. It is in quotes because we are using our characters. Okay, they are not integers, they are characters. So we can say Soko, then comma, that's our last name. Then our gender we can say male, right? Then for program we can say cyber. Okay, so we end with a semicolon at the end. So this is how we can create records. Okay, so remember again, we don't have that button for running this command. So in order for us to activate this command, we need to come and go on create, navigate on create, and then go on query design. You cancel it, so it is back. So we just cancel this query as well, so we can now run. Okay, so once we run our command, okay, so could not find the output table students. Okay, so I misspelled. Okay, my bad again. So students, it's students, spellings. Okay, so students. Okay, now I can run. Okay, so once you click yes, blah blah blah, so we just click on yes, we agree. So this means that we have basically inserted a record in our database. Okay, so we can even go on Datasheet View. Okay, so once you go on Datasheet View, you can see what we have done here. Okay, this is what we have done. Okay, so this is what we have done actually. So let me go back to SQL. Okay, so once I click on the table, I open the table. Okay, so we can now see, once I open the table, that those records have been now inserted in these fields. Okay, so this is how you can insert fields. You can insert records into the fields of the database. Okay, so one thing you need to know is that Microsoft Access does not support inserting multiple records. So you cannot insert multiple records in a database. Okay, you cannot insert multiple records. You need to insert records one by one. That's how Microsoft Access works. Okay, so this is how we do it, guys. This is how we do it. Then now, the next thing I want to show you is let's see if we have any agenda. Okay, so for today, this will mark the end of our tutorial. Okay, so in this video, you have learned on how to use Access, on how Access works, on how you can come up with the fields, on how you can insert records into the field. Okay, so we have introduced to you Microsoft Access database concepts, tables, SQL, so this forms the foundation for working with databases. Thank you for watching and see you in the next lesson. For now, it's goodbye.